My straight best friend touched me last night, true gay story. His body was right against mine. Not brushing. Not accidental. Just close. And I still don't know why. I woke up to the sound of the fan, its slow, steady hum slicing through the quiet of our apartment. It was dark, but not the kind of darkness that hides things. The blinds let in just enough light from the street lamp outside to paint shadows on the walls. The blanket was pulled halfway over me. The air was still. Heavy. And Josh was there. Lying beside me. His breath slow. Deep. Familiar in a way that should have felt safe. But this time, it didn't. Because he was shirtless. And that never happens. We'd shared this bed a dozen times, on road trips, late-night movie marathons, study weeks that turned into emotional collapses. We were best friends. We were used to crashing next to each other without it meaning anything. But this was different. Because he shifted. Just a little. Pressing closer. And then I heard it. His voice, quiet, groggy, like he wasn't fully awake. It's freezing in here. And then, more movement. More warmth. His chest against my back. His arm draped loosely across my side. Not holding. Not asking. Just there. Like it belonged. And my body froze. Not from fear. Not even from confusion. But from that sharp, electric awareness that something had just changed. I didn't speak. Didn't shift. Didn't do a single thing to break the silence that had suddenly thickened between us. Because my brain couldn't catch up. Josh. My best friend. The straight guy who once called my taste in guys predictably tragic. He was pressed against me now like we'd done this before. Like this was normal. Like his skin on mine wouldn't cause a storm inside me that I wasn't ready to feel. I stared at the wall in front of me and let the moment sit there. Heavy. Hot. Close. My heart started racing in that horrible, helpless way, when adrenaline mixes with disbelief. And I thought, why did he do that? Was it just cold? Am I imagining this? But I didn't move. Because part of me didn't want to know the answer. Before I tell you what happened next, comment where you're watching from. And if you've ever had a moment that seemed small, but made you question everything you thought you understood. Subscribe. Because what happened after this night changed how I see him. And how I see myself. I didn't know what scared me more. That Josh had done it without thinking. Or that he had done it on purpose. That maybe he wasn't as asleep as I thought. That maybe this wasn't about being cold at all. I stayed still. Tried to make my breathing steady. But every nerve in my body was on fire. Because when someone you trust crosses a line without warning, even gently, even quietly, it doesn't feel soft. It feels like silence just became a weapon. And you're too afraid to ask if it was loaded. We met in 10th grade. Josh was the guy who could talk to anyone. Loud in the hallways, always laughing, never without some girl on his arm or a sarcastic comment loaded in the chamber. I was quieter. Not shy, just deliberate. I watched people more than I spoke to them. We had nothing in common except a shared seat in biology and the same messed up sense of humor. But somehow, it clicked. One minute we were arguing over frog dissection, and the next we were playing video games in his basement at 2 a.m., betting who could eat more spicy chips without crying. We became inseparable. Sleepovers turned into full weekends. I knew he was straight. Everyone did. His locker was a revolving door of bad flings and high school heartbreaks. And me? I didn't say much. Not about that part of me. I wasn't closeted, exactly. But I wasn't loud either. And with Josh, it never felt like there was space for that conversation. So I stayed silent. Let the friendship grow in that untouched corner. Safe. Uncomplicated. We'd sleep side by side on floor mattresses or bean bags, half buried in snacks and sarcasm. He'd nudge me during horror movies when I jumped. I'd steal his hoodie when mine smelled like gym class. He called me dude more than my actual name. It was always friendship. Always a joke. Always platonic. Until it wasn't. If you've ever had a friendship that changed shape slowly, so slowly you didn't notice until it was already something else. Comment the word shift. Because sometimes the quietest changes are the ones that hit the hardest. And don't forget to subscribe, because what started in high school didn't stay there. I remember the first time he fell asleep beside me without a shirt on. It was summer. We were 18. He'd jumped into the lake with all his clothes on for a dare and came back soaked. He stripped the wet shirt off, flopped onto the couch, and said, "If I die from pneumonia, I'm haunting your dreams." We both laughed. It was normal. Stupid. Friendly. That night, I didn't think twice. But the second time? He stayed shirtless longer. Didn't bother covering up before climbing into the guest bed beside mine. Said it was hot. Didn't look at me differently. Didn't act like anything changed. But I noticed. And that's when it started. The questions. The pauses. The way I'd catch myself watching him laugh, then pretend I wasn't. We weren't supposed to be this close. Not like that. Not when the rules were already written. Not when one of us wasn't supposed to feel more. But friendship doesn't come with a roadmap. And feelings don't ask for permission. It was a regular Thursday. Pizza. Netflix. Background noise to another night we hadn't planned but fell into anyway. Josh had been crashing more often lately. He said his apartment was too quiet, that my place felt more like home. I didn't question it. I liked the company. I liked him here. He brought over 2 six-packs and 3 episodes of a terrible show he swore I'd love. I didn't. He didn't either. But we both laughed like we were in on the same inside joke, that life didn't have to make sense as long as you had someone to roll your eyes at. By midnight, we were both sprawled across the bed, half-eaten crusts on the nightstand, his leg hanging off the edge like he forgot his body had boundaries. He had a slight buzz. Not drunk. Just warm. He was rambling about a girl from work who kept mispronouncing his name even though he wore a literal badge, and I was trying not to drift off mid-story. Then, without ceremony, he sat up and peeled his shirt off. No explanation. Just said, "Too hot," and flung it onto the chair across the room like it didn't matter. And maybe it didn't. Maybe it really was just heat and fabric and comfort. But my heart did this quiet, traitorous thing. It skipped. Because even though I'd seen him shirtless 100 times, on beaches, in locker rooms, on lazy Saturdays with cereal bowls in our laps, something about it here, in my bed, in this kind of quiet, felt different. He lay back down beside me. Didn't ask. Didn't check if it was okay. Just let out a long sigh and murmured, "God, this mattress is so much better than mine." I laughed, softly, pretending I wasn't suddenly aware of every inch between us. Or worse, how fast that space was shrinking. He didn't touch me. Not at first. He just got comfortable. Rolled onto his side. Adjusted his pillow. Tugged the blanket up, even though he never did that before. And then, his knee brushed mine. Not dramatically. Not even intentionally. Just that small, quiet collision of skin when you share too much space and not enough awareness. But this time? He didn't move it away. He left it there. Casual. Unspoken. Like the weight of his knee against mine wasn't driving a stake into the center of my chest. I swallowed hard. Focused on the screen. Some character was confessing something dumb. The plot made no sense. I didn't care. Because Josh was next to me. Shirtless. Bare skin against mine. And now his shoulder was nudging mine, too. Closer. Breath by breath. Like a slow tide washing up the shore, not enough to notice at first, but too much to stop once it starts. I told myself. He's tired. He doesn't realize. It's nothing. But my body disagreed. My nerves were electric. Every sense sharpened. I could feel the warmth of him like a second blanket, so close I could smell his shampoo, the citrus and salt of his skin, that subtle edge of beer and breath and comfort. Then it happened. His hand. It moved. Slowly. Without warning. Without a word. Rested on my stomach. Not gripping. Not grabbing. Just there. His fingers spread out slightly, palm resting over my shirt, light and warm and steady. And it stayed. No adjustment. No flinch. Just stillness. Like his hand had landed there by accident, but never got the memo to move. If you've ever had someone cross a line without saying a word, and you didn't know whether to stop them or breathe them in, comment the word still. Because sometimes silence is the decision. And don't forget to subscribe, because what happened next wasn't loud. But it never left me. I didn't say anything. Didn't turn toward him. Didn't shift his hand away. Because I didn't know what this was. And I didn't want to name it wrong. Maybe he was half asleep. Maybe he thought I was someone else. Maybe this was just a moment born of late nights and open space and the quiet that blurs good judgment. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe this was deliberate. Careful. Timed. I stared straight ahead, eyes burning into the corner of the room, as if I could disappear into the wallpaper if I just held still long enough. But I could feel his hand rising slightly with each of my breaths. Like we were sinking. Like we always had. Josh shifted slightly, scooting down an inch, his body lining up with mine more directly. His forehead brushed my shoulder. Not hard. Not clumsy. Almost soft. I could feel him inhaling. And that's when the thought hit me. He's not asleep. No one breathes like that when they're out cold. No one lays their hand on someone else's body that gently without meaning to. But if he wasn't asleep, what was he doing? Was this comfort? Drunken affection? A test? And if it was a test, why was I failing it? I felt his thumb shift slightly against my shirt. Just a graze. A drag. Like he was tracing something only he could see. And I let him. I don't know why. Maybe I was scared to stop it. Or maybe I was scared of what it would mean if I didn't want to. Because truthfully, I didn't. I didn't want it to stop. And that terrified me more than anything. I closed my eyes, pretending to be asleep. Not to lie. Not to trick. But to shield myself from whatever truth might come next. Because what if he looked at me and laughed? What if he pulled away and said, "Dude, relax. I was kidding." Or worse, what if he didn't say anything at all? What if we just sat in that awful silence, knowing something happened and neither of us had the words to carry it forward? So I played dead. Let his hand rest. Let his breath settle into mine. Let my body burn in the stillness of a moment that neither of us had earned, but both of us had wandered into. The screen eventually dimmed. The room got darker. The beer on the nightstand warmed. The clock ticked past something I couldn't read. But Josh? He didn't move. His hand was still on me. And his body? Still close. Still warm. Still something I couldn't make sense of. I lay there, feeling everything. And nothing. I wanted to turn around. To ask him why. To ask if he meant it. To ask if he knew what he was doing to me, what he had always done to me, just by being near. But I didn't. Because I wasn't ready for the answer. Because once something is named, it becomes real. And real things don't always survive the light. I opened my eyes once, just briefly. Enough to see the outline of his face in the half-dark. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't scared. He just looked peaceful. Like he belonged here. Like we were always supposed to end up like this. And I wanted to believe it. I wanted to believe that maybe he wasn't as straight as he said he was. Or that maybe labels didn't matter. Or that maybe I wasn't just some safe space for his confusion. But mostly, I just wanted to believe I wasn't alone in this feeling. That the space between us hadn't always been mine to carry. That maybe, just maybe, he was carrying some of it, too. Even if he never said it out loud. I lay there, eyes wide open, staring into the dark. The hum of the ceiling fan. The soft creak of the bed frame. The silence that wasn't really silence at all. Because I could hear him breathing. Close. Too close. Each exhale brushed the back of my neck, warm, steady, too calm for someone who might be asleep. His hand was still on my stomach. Not moving. Not pressing. Just resting. But it was the weight of it that undid me. Not because it hurt. Because it meant something. And I didn't know what. Was this him drunk? Was this just a half-conscious, clumsy version of affection that he'd laugh about in the morning and never remember? Was he dreaming? Was he testing me? Was he hoping I'd move? Was he hoping I wouldn't? And worse, did he even know I was awake? Or was this whole moment balanced on my stillness? A wordless agreement I hadn't agreed to, but hadn't stopped either. If you've ever laid there, heart racing, body frozen, because someone you trusted suddenly felt like a question you didn't know how to answer, comment the word frozen. And subscribe. Because some stories don't start with a kiss. They start with a silence you're too scared to break. One thought kept circling through my head, quietly, painfully, endlessly. What if this ruins us? What if this moment, this hand, this heat, this breath, crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed? What if I turned around and saw something in his eyes I couldn't unsee? What if we were never able to laugh the same way again? What if the safest friendship I'd ever had just shifted into something fragile? Something dangerous? I should have moved. Said something. Cleared my throat. Pretended to roll over. Anything. But I didn't. Because deep down, beneath the fear, beneath the shock, beneath the confusion, I wanted to know what he'd do next. He shifted. Not much. Just enough that the mattress dipped slightly beneath him. Then I heard it. Low, quiet, almost swallowed by the dark. My name. Soft. Just once. No follow-up. No question mark. No inflection that begged for a reply. Just, my name. And then stillness. I stopped breathing. Not dramatically. Just, enough. Enough to make the moment freeze, like maybe, if I didn't move, I could hold it in suspension. Not forward. Not back. Just suspended in whatever it was pretending to be. Because what do you do with that? When someone you've only ever known in one way says your name like it means something else? He didn't say it again. He just stayed there, his chest against my back, his breath warm against my neck, his hand now slightly pressed against my ribs like it belonged there. Not moving. Not demanding. Just present. I wanted to speak. I swear I did. I wanted to turn, look him in the eye, ask what the hell was happening. What this was. Why he was touching me like I was something more than safe. But I couldn't trust my voice. Because the moment I opened my mouth, it would be real. And I didn't know if I was ready for real. That's when the memory hit me, out of nowhere, sharp and sudden like glass under skin. A few weeks back. We were eating takeout on the floor. Some dumb movie playing behind us, half the dialogue drowned out by the sound of us arguing about pineapple on pizza. Out of nowhere, Josh asked me, "Have you ever had a crush on a guy?" He didn't look at me when he said it. He was focused on his chopsticks, spinning noodles like he hadn't just dropped a bomb. I laughed. Too loud. Too quickly. Tossed a piece of chicken at him and said, "What kind of question is that?" He shrugged. Smirked. Just curious. And that was it. Or at least, I thought it was. But now, with his hand on my side, his voice still hanging in the air, my name still echoing in my chest like a second heartbeat, I couldn't stop replaying that moment. Over and over. Because hints don't matter until they echo in a different light. And then they become evidence. The stillness started to ache. Not just in my chest, but in the space between us. That electric quiet where every second felt like a choice we weren't making. I shifted. Barely. Just enough to turn halfway. Just enough to see. And that's when I knew. Josh's eyes were already open. Watching me. No panic. No apology. Just quiet recognition. Like he'd been watching for a while. Like he knew I was awake. Like he'd been waiting for me to stop pretending. His hand didn't move. Still resting against my side. Still gentle. Still steady. And now, unmistakable. I searched his face for something. An answer, a crack, a flinch. Anything. But he just looked at me. Like I was something he wasn't sure he had permission to hold. But wanted to anyway. My voice was barely a whisper. Why? He blinked once. Swallowed. Then said, soft and raw and almost embarrassed. I don't know. I just didn't want to be alone. No romance in his tone. No bravado. Just need. And somehow, that hit harder than anything else he could have said. Because this wasn't about labels. Or plans. Or identity. It was about something heavier. Something quieter. The kind of ache that makes you reach in the dark. Not for answers. But just for someone warm enough. Not to let you fall. When I woke up, he was gone. The bed was half made. The blanket was still over me, pulled up higher than I remembered. The room was bright now. Ordinary. But I wasn't. I sat up slowly, body stiff from too much stillness. The air felt thin. Like it didn't know what to carry. In the next room, I could hear the clink of mugs. The low gurgle of coffee brewing. Josh. Alive. Awake. Acting like mornings didn't follow nights like that. When I walked into the kitchen, he was already dressed, shirt back on, hoodie zipped halfway. He didn't look up right away. Just buttered toast and muttered something about how we were out of peanut butter. Then he glanced at me. Grinned. You want coffee? I nodded. My throat didn't trust words yet. He poured 2 cups like nothing happened. Like he hadn't whispered my name. Like he hadn't touched me in the dark with the kind of tenderness that didn't belong to friendship. He talked about errands. About needing gas. About a new album dropping that he thought I'd hate. And I just sat there. Drinking. Listening. Waiting. But he never brought it up. Not the hand. Not the closeness. Not the way his eyes had searched mine like he was asking for permission, or forgiveness, or both. Round pushpin CTA, final emotional anchor. If you've ever shared a moment with someone that should have meant something, but neither of you said a word after. Comment the word quiet. Because silence isn't always safety. Sometimes, it's just the weight of truth no one is brave enough to carry. And subscribe. Because some stories don't end in closure. They just echo. At one point, he reached across the table, just to grab the sugar, but his hand brushed my shoulder. And for a second, we both stopped. Just long enough for our eyes to meet. And in his, I saw it again. That same thing from the night before. The same question. The same ache. The same fear. But still, no words. He looked away first. Finished his toast. Checked his phone. And the moment passed like it never happened. But I felt it. Like a bruise in a place no one else could see. I've replayed that night more times than I can count. The way the room held its breath. The way his hand settled like it had always known where to land. The way he whispered my name like it wasn't just a name anymore. I think about it at odd times. Washing dishes, waiting at red lights, folding laundry that still smells like his hoodie. Not because I'm obsessed. Not because I'm searching for something. But because I still don't know what it was. And maybe I never will. Was it affection? Was it vulnerability wearing someone else's shape? Was it the result of too much comfort and not enough clarity? Or was it confusion? A quiet collapse in a boy who never learned how to ask for warmth out loud. I don't know if Josh even remembers it the way I do. Maybe, to him, it was nothing. Just a blur between beer and exhaustion. Just a night where boundaries softened but didn't break. Just proximity. But to me, it wasn't nothing. It was the sharpest kind of something. The kind you can't hold without bleeding. We still talk. Still hang out. Still steal fries off each other's plates and debate movie endings like our lives depend on being right. We still sleep in the same bed sometimes. But never like that. Not again. He doesn't reach for me anymore. I don't turn toward him. We go on like nothing happened. And that's the hardest part. Because I haven't gone on. He'll laugh like he always does. Tell me my music taste sucks. Throw his arm around me in a crowded room like it's second nature. But every time his hand lands on my shoulder, I wonder if it remembers. If he remembers. The silence between us hasn't grown louder. It's grown deeper. Wider. Like a canyon between memory and meaning. It doesn't ask questions. It just waits. I've tried to convince myself it didn't matter. That it was just a moment. Just a night. Just the softness of a tired boy who didn't know what else to do with his loneliness. But then I remember how he looked at me. Not confused. Not regretful. Just still. Like I was something worth staying close to. Even if he couldn't name why. If you've ever been touched by someone who didn't say what they meant, but said something with their silence, comment the word near. Because not all confusion is chaos. Sometimes it's just what's real. Showing up in the quiet. And subscribe. Because we tell stories here that don't always end clean. Some of them just echo. He didn't say he cared. But he stayed close. He didn't ask. But he reached. And I never told him to stop. Because I didn't want to. That's the part one keeps circling back to. That I let it happen. Not passively. But quietly. Like I was holding something delicate between us, and I didn't want to drop it by speaking too soon. I never told him what it did to me. How it made me feel cracked open. Exposed in a way I hadn't prepared for. How I haven't looked at him the same since. How I can't. Sometimes I think he's forgotten it completely. Other times, I catch him looking at me. Just for a second too long. Like he's waiting for me to say something. Or hoping I won't. Maybe he never meant to change anything. Maybe he just needed to be held in a way that didn't look like weakness. Maybe I was just available. A safe body in a silent room. But what he left behind wasn't just warmth. It was weight. He took off his shirt that night. But I'm the one who hasn't felt covered since.